Assalamu alaikum, boys. I hope you will be fine and in good state of health. Let's resume our today's session with the MCQs from 16 till 30. The first MCQ is: what is most likely to be the responsibility of the government? Is it the building of food processing plant? It can be built by the private sector as well. The building of a housing estate? Mostly it is by the private sector. Sometimes it is by the government as well. The building of a large shopping center. This is mostly by the private sector. The building of a major rail link. Now, this rail link, and particularly the major rail link, definitely will go by the government. So that is why D is the correct answer. Number 17. Which statement about the meaning of government economic aims is correct? Economic growth means that a country's real output must rise over time. Most probably, but let's see the other options. Full employment means that no one must be unemployed. No. All those who are willing to get employed, they should be employed. Price stability means that prices of all goods and services must remain unchanged. No, the prices can change, but with minimum fluctuation, that is called price stability. D. Redistribution of income means that everyone must have equal incomes. No, there is unequal distribution of income as well. So yes, the answer will go with A. 18. A government wishes to choose the gap between the earnings of, I beg your pardon, a government wishes to close the gap between the earnings of rich and the poor. What should be the main aim to achieve it? So A, increase progressive taxation. Yes, generally progressive taxation is to charge higher taxes to rich people and less taxes to poor people. Increase the rate of interest, that actually influences the saving and consumption. Increase the rate of sales tax, that is basically for the sales, and it is an indirect tax basically, and that is not going to close the gap between the rich and the poor. Increase the supply of money, that is monetary policy. It's not under the domain of the government. So yes, the answer is A, and other B, C, D are not the options. Number 19. A government decided to increase its spending on building schools and hospitals. Now, what are schools and hospitals? These are merit goods. Which aim of the government policy is most likely to be achieved by this increase? Is it a balance of payment surplus? No, basically, they are going for the schools and buildings. A stronger exchange rate, that goes for the basically international trade. Economic growth, yes, in a way, because it is government spending, and government spending stands for G, and G is part of the GDP as well. So yes, C is the answer. And price stability, basically this is not to stabilize the prices, basically this is to help the productivity of the people. So that is why it goes under the economic growth. Number 20. The forecast for Germany's GDP growth in 2013 was 1.5%. What might cause economic growth? So we need to see what options are available. An increase in import. If you look at the formula, that GDP is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So if imports go higher, it means GDP will fall. An increase in interest rates. So if interest rates are going to increase, basically you're going to spend less. So it means your private consumption will go down. GDP will again go down. An increase in productivity. Yes, if your productivity increases, so then you will be able to earn more and spend more. So most probably C. Let's see the other one. An increase in unemployment. No, if unemployment increases, you will move down the PPC, which is basically recession. Okay, so C is the answer, an increase in the productivity. So 21, the proportion of workers employed varies between different industries between developing and developed economies. Which combination in the table is likely to have the highest percentage of workers employed? Now, the first column is showing developing, and the second column is showing the developed part. So here, developing world definitely will go by the agriculture because they are not that rich and they generally based on the primary sector. But developed part of the world, they will go for services more, not for the manufacturing, because manufacturing will go by the industrialized nations. So that is why B is the right option. 22nd. In 2009, a country had an inflation rate of 2%. The table shows the inflation rate in the following years. In 2010 to 2011, it was 1. 2012, 0, it means there was no inflation at all. And 2013, there was deflation because it is -1. In which year did deflation start? 2013. 22 answer will be D. Which item, now 23rd, which item does the Human Development Index of a country include in addition to real GDP per head and life expectancy at the birth rate? So basically, it goes by the your literacy rate among adults. So which means B is the option because retirement age is not the part of that. Number of doctors, no, that is living standards, expenditure on law and order, that is also basically living standards. 24th, why might real GDP per head not be a good indicator of standard of living in developing countries? Now it is real GDP, so it means A is totally gone. Why? Because they are saying inflation does not account for, whereas it does. It does not account for population changes. So does the GDP population changes? So population change, it does influence your aggregate demand. So it does. It does not include primary production. It does. It does not include unpaid work on farms. So this is your right selection or option or the answer, and you will go for in case of 24 by D. The richest 60% of the population in a developed economy received an increase in income. Which row is correct as a result of this increase? Now, absolute poverty is basically when people live below a certain level. Below certain, for example, in case of internationally, it is $2 per day, and in case of certain economists, they believe it should be less than $1 per day. And in case of relative poverty, it does exist. Why? Because different people earn different income. So relative poverty, because 60% relative poverty is to increase. So there are two options, A and C. So here there is a tie. So in case of 25th, we can choose either A or C. So there is a possibility that in case of absolute poverty, it can remain constant because here there is no increase. Yes, there is an increase, but absolute poverty mean when the lowest common denominator earning ability goes down and it is not talked about. So that is why it will remain constant. So C will be the option. 26. According to the United Nations, the share of world population living in developed countries will increase from 83% in 2003 to 88% in 2050, mean 2050. What is the likely? What is likely to be the major cause of this predicted change? A climate change will lead to lower food output and starvation? No, because that is just barely by starvation, people won't die. The population, population won't increase, rather it will decrease. B, Improved education for girls will lead to a small decline in the birth rate. It means it will decrease. Increasing numbers of people will migrate to developed countries. Again, it will decrease in developing countries. So the only option left is D. Modern medicine and sanitation will lead to a rapid decline in the death rates. So that is why the population will increase. The diagram shows China's 27th. The diagram shows China's trade with Brazil for 1999 and 2003 in billions of dollars. Now, in case of gray, it is 1999, and in case of dark gray or black, it is 2003. If we look at exports, so exports in case of 1999 were greater as compared to imports. So it means in 1999, the trade account was in surplus, whereas clearly in 2003, it is in deficit. So here we need to see surplus to deficit. So 27 is D, so D is the answer. A country imposes tariff and quotas on imported goods. This is your question number 28. What will citizens of that country experience? In case of 28, so what is the possible? Now, when tariffs are imposed, domestic prices will go up. And definitely imported goods will become expensive. And if there are quotas, quotas mean the supply will fall. Again, prices have to rise. So it means A is the answer. Why B is not the answer? Higher welfare, when prices rise, it is not welfare. Higher unemployment, basically it is not influenced by the tariffs and quotas. Basically, there will be reduction in unemployment. Wider consumer choice, no, when there is a restriction on international trade, the variety of the goods will fall. 29th. What is most likely to encourage international specialization? Similarities in different countries, similarities in climate in different countries, not necessarily, because climatically different countries have, even the neighboring countries, they have certain climatic differences. Then the ability to produce products more cheaply than the other countries. Now, whenever you will specialization, you will be able to produce more. And whenever you will produce more, it means you can have economies of scale. And economies of scale will help you to reduce your unit cost, which means that you will be able to produce cheaply. So B is the right option. Why C and D are not? The discovery of oil in a country that had no oil before. No, it is not specialization, it is basically exploration. So that is why this exploration is going to help the GDP, but it is not because of international specialization, because it is totally dependent on what you call your natural resource base. D, very high international transport costs. If there are these high transportation costs for international trade, so then specialization won't help. So that is why it should be B, the ability to produce products more cheaply than the other countries. Boys, last one. Turkey's agriculture sector employs 48% of the country's workforce, compared with 17% in the United States and 3.9% in France. Okay, so what could be concluded from this statement? France is likely to import more agriculture produce than US. Look, the size of employment does not necessarily mean that the output will be higher or will be lower with different fractions. I mean, it doesn't mean that the agriculture output will be produced more by Turkey then by United States, and then by France. No, it doesn't go by that, because Other countries, they employ more technology. So A is not the option. The workers in France are not as productive as those in Turkey. It is actually negation of the statement. Definitely, in France, the workers are more productive. That is why only 3.9% can produce the need, you can say, the demand for all the French people. Total agriculture product production is likely to be higher in Turkey than in US. It is just simply like the what you call in a way that agriculture production of Turkey, it means, is higher than any you can say as compared to US. So the answer will be no. Why? Because US is employing less, but the US will be employing more technology as compared to Turkey. Turkey is likely to be less developed than France. This is the most likely answer. Why? Because developed countries, they use more technology, less people, less manpower, and there is less manpower in the primary sector, and agriculture is the primary sector. Now, boys, with this, your mock MCQ paper is over. Now, initially you were asked for the first 15 MCQs, and I didn't receive any response till today. So what you are to do now that it is the first one and the second one. Now these are two assignments. Assignment number one, 1 to 15, and assignment number two, 16 to 30. What you are going to do that you are going to give me the answers, but you need to give two reasons why a certain option is the answer, or you need to say why others are not the right answers. I mean, you need to give reasons. Okay, so best of luck and try your level best. Another thing that now we are in the stage of what you call that in case of online education. So please, for heaven's sake, for your parents' sake, and lastly, for your teacher's sake, do work hard and pay due diligence so that we all can rise collectively. Thank you very much.